Welcome, brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining us once again here at the Blue Lotus Meditation and Mindfulness Center here in Brainerd, Minnesota. We are so delighted that you are able to spend some of your precious evening this evening with us while we explore the Dharma, guided meditation, and ways that we can walk that path with new eyes, lifting that veil towards our own enlightenment and towards the enlightenment and liberation of others. Remembering that when we embark on our mindfulness journeys and our Dharma journeys, we also do so for the sake of other sentient beings. And that's an important understanding and undertaking as well. So today is October 2nd, 2023. It's about 6 p.m. here in the Central Time Zone. And tonight's Dharma talk is entering the stream, right? Dharma and the path to enlightenment. And entering the stream is a wonderful description of the path that we are embarking on towards our own liberation and liberation of other beings. And as we typically begin with, right, our wonderful guided meditation to get us started. And our guided meditation this evening is on entering the stream. So it's a wonderful meditation that gets us in the positive and the correct mindset towards that journey that we are embarking on. So go ahead and allow yourself to get into that comfortable position. You may close your eyes or allow them to be slightly open with a soft focus looking downwards, a few feet in front of you, if you choose. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. Go ahead and allow yourself that half smile to rest on your face as well. Allow your spine to lift and your shoulders to soften. Soften your belly as well. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. And let's meditate on entering the stream. I open my mind to boundless compassion. Compassion towards all beings. Compassion towards myself. Suffering is what all living beings endure. Compassion is what eases all beings' suffering. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. Compassion towards all living beings is what calls me to enter the stream. And to embark on a journey of enlightenment. I have seen the Dharma. I have seen the Dharma and let go of self-view. I have seen the Dharma. I have seen the Dharma and let go of rites and rituals of purification. I have seen the Dharma. I have seen the Dharma and let go of skeptical indecision of Buddha's teachings. I have seen and tasted the Dharma and entered the stream towards liberation and enlightenment for the sake of all living beings. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. go ahead and begin to open your eyes slowly and to reorientate your bodies and positions before standing up if you need to. Wonderful. As I was writing that guided meditation, it brought forth several observations of what I see going on today in our society, with the really wonderful acceptance of wanting to help, realizing that people are suffering, including ourselves, and then wanting to help nurture others and nurture ourselves. And we'll get to the one aspect, to the one of those three fetters that we talked about, particularly with the clinging to the rites and no rituals. And we'll get to that one a little bit more in depthly as we progress in the evening. But there's a quote that you may have read from Buddha, right? Just as the great ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, so also this teaching and discipline has one taste, the taste of liberation. And so that is the Buddha comparing the Dharma, right, all having one taste, the taste of salt, compared to the oceans. And actually in several religions out there, right, salt is mentioned, right? Salt is a necessary taste. It's a necessary preservative for one, right? People had salt fished and meat and so forth to make the food last longer. So it's a common theme that's presented throughout regions. So it's an important it's an important description and realization, even in the Bible, right? Salt is important. The salt of the earth, right? We use that to describe someone who is steadfast and reliable and so forth. So that's an important, again, salt is an important description of that. So this quote from the Buddha, it really describes, in essence, what the Dharma is. Liberation in all forms. So not just physical liberation, but most importantly, the mental afflictions that keep us in place and perpetuate the suffering that we experience and perpetuates the suffering that others experience as well. And so it's described as entering on this path, as entering the stream, right? Or entering a stream. And let's think about that. Right? What is a stream? Typically, it's a smaller body of water, right? Not necessarily a river, and certainly not an ocean. And it's fresh, right? It's fresh water. So it's a little bit different than taste-wise, obviously, right? Salt water and fresh water. And different fresh water can taste different depending on where you are as well. Whereas, again, the oceans consistently have that salty taste. I'm sure that the Dead Sea may be a little bit more saline, as well as the Great Salt Lake, but I'll take that as just the many aspects of the diversity that we wonderfully encounter. But think about the journey of that stream, right? To get to that ocean, right? Before even joining into something bigger, right? Rains have to fall and collect to form those small streams, perhaps in puddles and ponds and so forth. But we have to get those small streams collected in the first place before we can even enter them. So they start off small, right? These streams, they that's where they begin, right? In those small little crevices and those little valleys, right? And that's where we can kind of begin our journeys as well. And when we look at streams, they're not typically straight, right? They're not just straight and narrow, especially the larger they get, right? Right, but maybe they have some streams that kind of navigate or meander their ways through bedrock formations or other obstacles. My point being is that those streams, they don't typically just embark on a straight journey, A to B, right? They meander, right? They look around, they examine. Some places get stuck in little eddies, little whirlpools, and so forth. It's kind of like our lives, very much like our lives, right? Looking around, maybe getting stuck here and there, having some problems, rapids, right? Maybe there's some obstacles in the way, very much like that. So entering the stream is a really skillful and visual interpretation of embarking on this path. So they start off small in those little brooks and traveling downhill and downstream, right? Downhill. But then what happens? They don't typically just jump into the ocean, right? Maybe just smaller little tributary to another stream, right? Merging into those larger streams, right? So there may be many different tributaries, one small stream going into a larger one, just like our lives, many stages of our lives when we're younger, adolescents, teenagers, young adults, and so forth. So just like that meandering stream, our lives meander too. Our lives meander too, before we even finally converge into the ocean. So our Dharma studies, our Dharma realization, opening our Dharma heart in compassion towards all sentient beings can take a little bit of time. And that's okay, right? That's absolutely okay. Very often, especially in today's society, we think of instant gratification. I have done this for an hour. I should be there already. It's not a trip to the mall, right? It takes practice, right? It takes time. So understanding that our lives, our Dharma studies, our journey along that stream will have meanders. We may get stuck in those eddies. You ever see those little leaves or the sticks? They just twirl around for a little bit. So maybe something happens, pushes it along or whatnot. That can be us sometimes, and that's okay. We have somebody to help us. That's why the Sangha is important. Right? That's why the Sangha is important. You're not on this journey alone. Right? They can get you, other Sangha members can get you out of that spinning cycle and back on your journey to the ocean, right? To that Dharma ocean. And so a person who has decided, right, or has witnessed or experienced or has seen the Dharma, and it's not just enough to see it and read it and so forth, but also wants to embark on that journey of enlightenment, has a precious opportunity to become what is called a stream enterer. Right? It's important to understand. So we can see it, we can read it. Many people have read the Dhammapada and so forth, and a lot of the scholarly teachings and treaties and so forth. But then they don't decide to embark on that journey. So it's an and statement. You need both of those conditions. So, but what is a stream enterer? Right? So when we say those conditions, deciding to embark on that, stream enterer is really one who has dropped what are called the first three fetters, right? First three realizations, or not necessarily setbacks, but we'll just call them fetters. That's the word that we commonly use to describe them. And the first one being is self-view, right? So we've dropped self-view. right? That's an understanding that there is not that true I, that I, me, mine, right? The possessions. And if you remember from our Dharma talk last week, George Harrison and the Beatles, right? We talked about his one song, right? I, me, mine. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead and check out it was a fun Dharma talk on the Beatles. But that's the first fetter, understanding that we can drop that possessiveness, I, me, mine, much more to the we, right? To the us. And so these possessive qualities, this is part of the referrals of the part of the 5 aggregates, right? A form, a feeling, perception, intention, and cognizance. Right. So just kind of understanding that first fetter, we let go, that the possessiveness, the I, the me, and the mine. More that broad aspect, that broad encompassing view that all of us are connected. Right? We're all part of this world together. The second fetter, and we kind of see those one happening a lot more today, is the clinging to the rites and the rituals. Right? We have to drop the rites and the rituals for purification and so forth. It doesn't mean that we don't honor the Buddha, right? Or any other deity respectfully, right? Because we do, burning incense, offerings, or again, one of the wonderful things about Buddhism, you can be of any faith. You can have those other deities, but it's also understanding that it's the clinging to the rites and the rituals for purification purposes. That's not what makes us pure, right? So understanding that it's in our actions, our mindsets, our intentions. Again, those 5 aggregates, right? The perceptions, the intentions, the cognizance, and so forth. That the I, me, mine, right? It's not some crystals going to, purify us and or an animal sacrifice, for example. It's not going to purify or cleanse us. And then the third, first of all, before we get to the third, right? No killing, right? That's our very first precept, right? No killing. So that would certainly not be in there as a rite or a ritual. And then the third fetter that we have let go to be considered a stream enterer is skeptical indecision. That doesn't mean we can't have logical questions, right? Or I'm just skeptical about everything and show me first and so forth, or going back and forth like, maybe this, maybe that, or whatnot. We are allowed to have that inquiry, right? But what the skeptical indecision fetter is referring to, it simply means that we accept that the Buddha's teachings are true, right? But even, again, remembering, Buddha even stated himself, right? Not to take simply what he says because of who he is, right? Put it to a test. Just like that goldsmith tests his samples, right, for their quality. And so we are allowed to question, but also understanding that the 4 noble truths, right? Cause of suffering, attachment, the Noble Eightfold Path, and so forth. Those are that pathway is what is we are accepting, right? We are allowed to be skeptical. You can show me a little bit more, right, and so forth. And that's the wonderful thing about Buddhism. It's not you believe this, You have to. Open minds and understanding. That's how we get to that liberation. There are 8 billion people on this planet. And so one particular decision may not be right for everybody. So we can try to find what's ours and let go of what does not work. Like the raft analogy that we often hear about, that, a raft is only good for crossing a river, right? We don't need it to cross a desert. So we would just leave the raft at the shore. So that's important to realize. And so once we have dropped these first 3 fetters, right, then we may be considered a stream enterer. And although we may be reborn, right, we're still going to be reborn, right? We haven't achieved, that nirvana stage or that total enlightenment stage. But we won't be reborn as an animal, right? Or a hungry ghost, right? Check out some of those hungry ghosts. There are several hungry ghosts. My wife likes to tell me the ones they've got the big head, and they're really long and very large and tall, but they have these tiny little mouths because they just can't get enough because they were so greedy in life, right? And so they're big and huge, but they got these tiny little mouths like the size of a pin that maybe you can fit like a grain of rice through them. So at least adopting or dropping those first 3 fetters allows us to be reborn as a human, not an animal, not as a hungry ghost or some other hell being. And so those are important, right? Those are important aspects or considerations that we want to include in our daily lives. And so when we are embarking on this path of liberation, this stream enterer, right? Even in that guided meditation, remember it's about compassion towards all living beings. Let your compassion be as boundless as space and time. Think about that. How big is the universe, right? And it's expanding, right? Hubble constant. Oh, it's expanding. And so let our compassion be as broad as the universe, but as broad as space-time, or space and time. And so when we drop those first 3 fetters, we may consider ourselves a stream enterer towards this path of liberation, enjoying what we see and helping who we can, as well as learning the Dharma to educate our mind as well. So let me know what you think of this Dharma talk. This was a really enjoyable one. They're all enjoyable, but I really like experiencing the newity when I see new people wanting to embark on this journey as well. It's rewarding, right? Even remembering that in several Dharma talks ago, we talked about how we're in an age of Dharma decline. So it's really wonderful to see new stream enterers embarking on the path and joining our Sangha and so forth. So let us know what you think in the comments below. We respond to everyone, and we're always here to help in any way that we certainly can. Our next Dharma talk will be on the 16th. October has 3. We'll have three wonderful Dharma talks this month. One of the newest inclusions to our center is a Dharma Institute. So we'll have more information on that. We have some temporary information on our webpage, but if you have any scholarly articles or so forth you want to submit, we'll be accepting those as well. Anything to promote the Dharma in a wonderful and compassionate way, absolutely. And you don't have to be some PhD researcher or anything like that. Right? Don't think you have to. Dharma's for everyone. Dharma's for everyone. Don't forget our weekly sanghas. right? Our healing Sangha, our veterans Sangha, our new beginnings, and our rainbow Sangha, and our welcoming and our teen Sangha. These are all free. Just come join us. Just register, right? Our Sangha is filled with wonderful members on journeys. And so we would love to have you. If you would like to sit with us, you're absolutely more than welcome to. And with that, we'll close with our 3 jewels as part of our bi-weekly practice. And so I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. And with that, dear brothers and sisters and Sangha members, we will see you in 2 weeks on the 14th or 16th. What I say? The 16th in 2 weeks, 6 o'clock. Take care, brothers and sisters.